Folks, welcome inside the Parisi Palace, high above 2919 East Broadway. This is the Jake Feinberg Show, coming to you live on Power Talk. Please go to our website, powertalk.live. Download our free app and stream all of our live local programming, including Solomon on Blast, the Jim Parisi Show, and yours truly, the Jake Feinberg Show. We can't thank you enough for making us part of your day today, and a very happy holiday season. And what a way to usher in the holiday season by being able to joust with a serious rhythmist, a cat who was rooted in the tribal jazz and the blues of the 50s and 60s, and then wound up creating his own vocabulary on the drum kit in many power rock settings. The list goes on and on and on. It's too much to even go through. Happy holidays. Carmine Appice, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
How you doing, Jake? How are you? So where are you? Are you in New York?
I am a Long Islander, Stony Brook, born and raised, but my show's based in Tucson, Arizona.
Oh, Tucson, okay.
Yeah, so I found my voice out here, and it feels really good.
Okay.
Hey, man, I wanted to ask you, when was the first time that you met the drummer Mike Clark?
Oh, my God. Oh, I can't even remember.
In what setting, though? Because you know what it was? The first time you kind of came on my radar as a potential guest was I saw a picture Mike put up of you and him with your arms around each other, and I was like,
well, that was recent. That
was recent. Yeah.
Iridium. That was at the Iridium. But I mean, in the music business, via all the drum companies and the cymbal companies and NAMM shows and all that, you sort of meet everybody. So I met Mike years ago, probably at NAMM show to start, but I can't really pinpoint exactly when.
I guess the question, maybe the better question is, did you get to see him? When did you get to see him live, if ever?
Well, actually, that first time live was that time at the Iridium. Actually,
really?
Yeah. I mean, I saw him. I met him. I know him through the NAMM show and all that stuff. But I never really got to see him actually play until the Iridium. That's why I went down there that night.
Well, a lot of my show is focused on rhythm. I'm not a musician, and I'm only 38 years old, but I am very fascinated with the language that you guys were hearing as kids. And I put up a lot of these posts on Facebook, whether it's Keltner, yourself, Mike Clark, Lenny White, whoever I've interviewed. And this was one thing that Mike said, and I wanted to get your opinion on it. He said, I must say, as a jazz musician who played funk, when I hear fusion or funk cats play jazz, almost all the time there is no language and the cymbal is not right. I'm not saying it's not good or fun, but 16-note runs, fast licks, and thud-sounding tom-toms don't resonate of any homework, as jazz is a different animal and deserving of respect. When I hear guys stack their chops or latest fusion licks on jazz tunes, I can't stand the sound of that. Funk seems to have its boundaries that people parrot all the time, and since I lived it, I am in the know. Well, jazz does also. So, can you talk about if you agree with that statement at all? I'm really talking about today's drummers.
Well, for me, it goes, like from a rock player to jazz. I mean, most rock players can't play jazz. There's a few that can. Like Steve Smith, Greg Bissonette, those kind of guys can play pretty much anything. But I'm not that tuned into the jazz players that play jazz rock, I mean, jazz rock basically is, just an 8-note feel on whatever's going on, mostly. I mean, you could translate it like that, because, jazz as a whole is a dotted 8 and 16 bounce feel,
Right.
And, rock is based on an 8-note feel. So you get, that's one of the differences there, is that. And, so like when I grew up playing some jazz when I was a kid, I could play jazz a bit now, but, I don't consider myself a great jazz player. I mean, like Cindy Blackman, I just saw her play. She's a pretty damn good jazz player, so she can play jazz rock and jazz rock, I think.
Did you see her in the jazz context or with Santana?
I saw her in the jazz club here in Manhattan in the last couple of months, and she was awesome. I've done clinics with her. she's very Tony Williams oriented, you know, and but she was really great, and she's got a great feel. And you know, I mean, with the jazz cymbal thing, you know, there's a dotted 8 and 16th feel that goes ding, dick-a-ding, 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 you know, like that.
Right.
And most of the jazz guys would play that, and they have the hi-hat on 2/4, and then they do improvising between the snare and the bass drum. But you know, there's some jazz players like Tony Williams that varied off of that. Even Elvin Jones. I mean, those guys varied off of that ride cymbal. You know, so that ride cymbal thing might have been something more, you know, like in the 40s and not experimental. You know, it's just like it's like when a lot of guys play rock, they just do straight eights on a hi-hat on a cymbal. You know, but then there's guys that go off that, like myself. I don't like playing 8 notes all the time. I like to use the right hand as a melody thing, you know, to put melody into the ride cymbal rather than just a straight 8 note thing. You know, rhythmical melody.
No, I mean, because Cindy's like kind of young, a little bit younger than you, but I mean, your generation. I mean, where did your ears grow the most? And what I mean by that is like early on, the idea.
Well, it was jazz. It was big band jazz. Buddy Rich, Gene Krupa, Max Roach, Billy Joe Jones, what's his name? Dave Brubeck, Joe Morello.
Yeah.
You know, all those guys, and Roy Haynes, Ed Shaughnessy. I used to listen to all those records. Matter of fact, I had a record which was a Music -1 record. I believe it was a Quincy Jones record.
Really?
Without drums on it that you can play to. You know? And I think Roy Haynes had one of those too. Not Roy Haynes, Roy Burns had one. He went on to, you know, found Aquarian Drumheads and all those products.
So Roy Burns had an MMO LP without any drums on?
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it was his. And I'm pretty sure it was a Quincy Jones one too. I may be wrong about the Quincy Jones one, but I seem to remember that.
Carmine, could you just talk to my audience about how that if those cats, the point is this: when I listen to any kind of music, fusion music today, there is in my mind, I don't hear a lot of space. The bass drums have become so prevalent in keeping time. And the cats that you were really growing up with, yeah, they used the bass drum. But, you know, I just talked to Mike Mainieri last week. He said that, you know, Buddy Rich, there was a three-day run in Chicago. He didn't play. He just played the cymbals. He played time on the cymbals the whole shows. And
well, I mean, Buddy especially. He was the first guy to really integrate the bass drum into the melodicness. You know, the melodic grooves and solos of his day. You know, he had a lot of tremendous bass drum hand combinations while keeping the cymbal going. You know, so I can't imagine that. You know, doing 3 days just on the cymbals. You know, I knew Buddy. I ended up being friends with him in the last 7 years of his life, and you know, he was just a one of a kind, totally. He was like my main guy for being vicious. Gene Krupa was my guy for showmanship, and for some off-the-wall kind of stuff, it was Joe Morello and Max Roach. So if you gel all of that together, that's how I came up with what I do. But the only difference when I did it is I was playing against Marshall stacks of amplifiers, so I had to play louder and pull the sticks around to playing with the butt end and really just pounding and beating the hell out of the drum, but still trying to keep all the technique that I grew up with. And I studied, you know, I had a tremendous teacher named Dick Bennett, and he took me through all the classic books, all the classic stuff, you know, and he really gave me a good set of hands. They were fairly even and good coordination. As I went through that Jim Chapin book. You know, we went through it forwards and backwards and all kinds of crazy stuff. And he was a very innovating teacher. My brother Vinny went to him also.
I have to believe that you guys were also going to the Palladium, though, to see Machito Tito Puente. Did you get off on the?
I saw Tito Puente a couple of times. I wasn't really into that. I was into James Brown. You know, I went to see James Brown at the Apollo when he had two drummers, and it was so powerful. When I was a kid, I saw the Alan Freed shows at the Brooklyn Paramount. You know, they had two drummers as well. That was really powerful. And you know, I would see that kind of stuff. I used to go down to Birdland in Manhattan.
Wow.
And on Monday nights it was called Gretsch Drum Night. and on any Monday night you'd have all these Gretsch players coming down. And I saw this really young black dude. I'm pretty sure it must have ended up being Tony Williams, because Tony was younger than me. And this kid was younger than me, and I used to go there and take my older brother's draft card to get in, because in those days you had to be 18. I was about 16. And the kid I was looking at must have been about 12. So that fits about the age difference between me and Tony Williams. And I used to see him there. He was a little guy, and he was just unbelievable, you know. And you'd see, you know, Roy Haynes, and you'd see Philly Joe Jones, and Max Roach was there, and you know, and they'd all just play with different bands and jam. And I'd go down there Monday nights, and that was really my influence. You know, so I wasn't really influenced by any Latin, other than I went through Ted Reed's Latin book, so I could play gigs. You know, I would play, like, you know, learn different things, at merengue and cha-chas and rumba and mambo, that kind of stuff, you know. But
did you ever? There are great stories from Dick Burke and cats like that on the West Coast when Philly Joe was playing with Miles, and then they'd ask to play, and Philly Joe would let him play, but if you couldn't swing, the entire band would just walk off the stage. I mean, can you talk about a time? Did you get can you talk about some early jazz gigs that you played?
Well, I mean, I didn't do a lot of jazz gigs. I had one jazz band that I had, a guy named John DeLello. He was a sax player. And my friend Bobby Spinelli that lives in Vegas, he was a keyboard player. We always used to have left-hand bass on, like, either a Fender Rhodes or a Fender or a Wurlitzer piano or a B3. You know? So we'd have guitar, sax, keyboard player playing left-hand bass, and me. And we would play, you know, jazz tunes at the time. You know, you play the head 2 times in solo and then come back to the head. You know?
I mean, that sounds like acid jazz. That's like acid jazz. That's like Don Patterson.
Yeah, and take 4s. You know, we do, like, with a song that you know, we do that. That would be the head. We do that twice, and we go into the improvising part. And this guy John DeLello was like Coltrane. He was like, you know, really amazingly fast sax bits, just soulful, and he really helped me break into playing real jazz. You know, with that band, because he was very experienced. I was young. I was like 15 years old. You know, and
yeah.
And we would play, you know, we would play in bowling alleys at the bar.
You still with us, Carmen?
Yeah.
You still there?
Hello?
You still there? Carmen.
Yeah, are you there?
Yeah, no, keep going. So you're playing bowling alleys, but you just said...
Yeah, we were playing bowling alleys and bars and clubs. I had to use my brother's group because I was too young. My brother was 18.
That was that early mid-'60s period, though. When you say real jazz, I just want to get the Carmine Appice definition of improvisation, because we're living in such a formulaic time. My daughters, younger generations, they get up on the bandstand, they play a tune, and then it comes to a part where you're supposed to improvise, and you do your solo. But improvisation is really, in my mind, not knowing what you're playing next. And I just want you
exactly.
Can you just talk about real jazz, what you mean, and then your definition of improvisation?
Well, I mean, the real jazz was, you know, the Dottie 16th feel, as I've talked about before, you know. and it followed a format. The format was, you do the head, which is the melody, a couple of times, and then you go and take the chord changes and you just improv on it. First it'll be like a sax solo, then it might be a guitar solo, then a keyboard solo, and then we might take fours with the drums instead of just doing an out-and-out solo, and then after that, then you go back to the head and you end the song, So they pretty much went like that. Maybe, all the solos weren't the same every time. Maybe the guitar solo was omitted in one and it just did a keyboard and a sax solo, or maybe you just did a sax solo, but, just to make it a little different. But it was all improvising as far as, the solos went, When you take fours, we took fours. Like, I would never take the same four, we had a series of 4 fours, they'd all be different. If we did that the next night, they'd be different again,
Exactly.
That's just the way it is, but that applies even to now, in the rock music I play. With Vanilla Fudge, for instance, and Cactus, and when I play with Jeff Beck and BBA, it was all about getting to the solos, and the solos were totally improvised. We weren't about, especially with like BBA and Cactus, we... More with BBA than anything with Jeff, because we would just get, we weren't known for great songs. We were known for great playing, and the quicker we got to the solo part, the better. That's how we felt.
We need to get some tapes of that quartet you had with that guy from Vegas, the keyboard player and the horn player.
We need to get some tapes?
I mean, I need to hear those tapes. I know there's no tapes. I know there's none.
Yeah,
but
there are no tapes.
I mean, so with you, the idea that you grew up in Brooklyn, can you describe was it basically blacks and Italians together?
No, it was everything.
It was everything.
Blacks, Italians, Puerto Ricans, Polacks, Jewish. Pretty much it was a melting pot in Brooklyn then.
So I mean, like, and the sounds of the rhythms, because everybody. I mean, I've talked to all the percussionists, Candido and Ray Mantia. I mean, everybody had conga drums back then, but you weren't.
Well, not really. Not in my area. Not in my street.
Okay.
It was just rock bands or jazz. That was it. There was no conga, no Latin. Maybe if you went down to different parts of Brooklyn, which were more Puerto Rican oriented, there'd be more conga drums going on down there. But my area, a lot of Italians, and and we played rock gigs, we played jazz gigs, we played the Mafia Society. They had like their little storefronts, that they hire bands to play. And then we play weddings. Weddings in those days were, you play the Ladies of Tramp, you play Satin Doll, you play Misty, you play some sort of cha-cha,
right.
Cherry Pink and Apple Blossom White. I mean, so it's just a variation of different kinds of music, And then, that could be on a Saturday. On the Friday night, I would maybe play a church rock dance, and where we'd be playing all the songs of the day, James Brown, or play "Do You Love Me" by the Contours, or "Shout" by the Isley Brothers, that kind of stuff.
Right, the soul and funk. I mean,
soul and funk and R&B. I grew up on that stuff.
Carmine Appice has kindly called us back after we lost him in the Battery Tunnel. How you doing? You all right?
I'm good. Yeah.
I was just going to ask you. You are prolific. You're well aware, and you've put a lot of instruments back into schools because they've taken a lot of music programs out of the schools. But I wanted you to talk specifically about interacting and playing games with those students.
Right.
If you could talk about that.
Yeah. So basically, some of the stuff I've done with those guys, like in Little Kids Rock, basically, I did. I did some musical games with them, like how to write a song. know. And I would just say to him, okay, we're going to write a song. So first of all, we need a verse chord change. So who's got a chord change? And then, somebody would raise their hand and they would give me a chord change. I go, okay, that's a good chord change. So now we need like a pre-chorus, something to go before the chorus. And then they would come up with something, and I'd say, okay, that's good. And then we come up with a chorus change. And I said, no, in the chorus, let's find something that we can talk about in the verses. So somebody came up with the idea of, I had a great day today. Okay?
Right.
So then, okay, so that's the name of the choruses. I had a great day. And then I said, okay, so let's, here's the chorus changes, here's the lyric, I had a great day, it's been a great week, or something like that. So let's sing those lyrics to this chord changes. So then we came up, somebody sang something, or I might have helped them, and then we come up with a chorus. I said, okay, now we have to build a story that builds up to that you had a great day. So what'd you do the first thing you did in the morning? I woke up and I had breakfast, Right?
I love it, yeah.
And then what'd you do? Then I walked to school and, I had my first class, blah, blah, blah. So we put together lyrics like that rhymed, and then we came up with a melody for that. Same thing for pre-chorus. And we wrote a song, like that. And it was really entertaining. It was very game-oriented. And it was fun for the kids and fun for me, So that's, what I would do at some of the little kids' rock places,
Can you talk about how you cultivated the building of songs? I mean, did that start with your brothers? Can you go back to a time when you first started to learn how to interact?
Well, I mean, I learned how to sing harmony from my older brother. My older brother was he had a singing group. They used to come to the house, and
it's like a doo-wop group?
Yeah, a doo-wop group, a four-piece, and they had a black guy in there named Sam. Sam used to do the bass parts, that blah, 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 all that kind of stuff, And then they had three-part harmony, and they'd have a lead singer. And my brother Frank taught me how to do harmony when I was young. I was probably 10 or 11, So then I went on in my school days of 12, 13, 14, and I started singing with my own doo-wop groups, and I learned how to sing harmony. But then I was also playing drums, so, I sort of gelled them together, and I started singing backgrounds to the rock songs and singing some leads on some rock songs, And little by little, I developed that. I got my vibrato from the Ronettes, from, what's her name, Ronnie Spector.
Wow.
And so when I used to sing with a vibrato, and, and then later on when I joined Vanilla Fudge, I became a very important part of the band,
You guys were doing a lot of three-part harmonies in Vanilla Fudge, or was it more?
It was more. We always had three-part harmony behind the lead singer. Sometimes some of the stuff we'd sing, it was in four-part harmony. When people get ready, we did some four-part harmony stuff. And songs like Some Velvet Morning, we had four-part harmony. Eleanor Rigby, there's four-part harmony going on.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit. Did you play early on? The Mafia really controlled a lot of the nightlife. Did you play like burlesque houses? This is before Vanilla Fudge.
Well, I played a few burlesque houses, but our manager of the band Vanilla Fudge was connected to the Mafia, to those guys that you see in the movie Goodfellas.
Right.
So we used to know Henry Hill. We used to know Paulie the Don. They all used to go to my manager's club. Matter of fact, in the movie, have you seen that movie?
Sure.
The club that was burned down, I'm pretty sure that was my manager's club.
What was the name of it?
Well, in real life, it was called the Action House, but it wasn't the name in there. But, they burned it down to collect insurance, and then he rebuilt it.
I want to play you an audio clip from. Go.
Just so happens
Yeah.
my manager's club had a fire, you know, and they burned down. They rebuilt it and made it better. You know.
I had an opportunity to interview a comrade of yours. I don't want you to try to guess who it is, but I want you to listen to what he says, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
You know, I ended up, going into rehab, and I had to, move out of New York. And, I had been playing, under the influence for so long that I wasn't sure what was going to happen, but, because of when I finally did get, go back and play, I mean, I have good friends in the business, and being able to go back to music straight and still and love playing and be in the same situations with people and not use anymore. I mean, it was good, man. It was great to have that. I could have lost it all, and I didn't.
All right, that was Steve Gadd.
I knew that was Steve.
It was Steve. Can you wrote a book in your own right about the life of a musician. Can you talk about a time when you faced adversity in your life and how the music helped or hindered you in becoming better or stronger?
Well, I mean, for me, I always said that music probably saved my life because a lot of my friends went on to join the Mafia and all that from being in the gangs. Kids, we all had gangs. You belong to a gang to be safe kind of thing, And so for me, I could have ended up like a bunch of my friends did, in the Mafia. And one guy ended up being a capo. He's up right now. He's spending 2 life sentences. Another guy has 1 life sentence. A couple other guys got killed. So I always said that I think music might have saved my life because I was heading in the wrong direction.
And a life of crime,
Yeah.
but in the sense of, did you get to a point with like Steve did where?
No, I never was into the drugs. I was never a drinker. I smoked a little pot in my life, and every once in a while they would spike our wine at festivals with acid or mescaline, or we took some peyote, but I never ever got to the point where I was totally dependent and I was hooked on heroin or cocaine or anything like that.
Did you see a lot of I remember talking to Michael Shreve and he was.
Oh yeah, I saw a lot of people. People got messed up. A lot of people died. I remember before Andy Johns died, he died a couple of 2-3 years ago. And he was saying, it's really weird how we're losing all our friends at a young age, of cancer and all this weird stuff. I said, yeah, it is weird. He says, I wonder if all the drugs and the cocaine and the heroin and all that stuff had something to do with it. Because even if, people kick the habit, nobody knew what these chemicals in your body were really going to do to your body,
Absolutely.
Because this is the first generation of this heavy drug generation, Just like they didn't know what marijuana was going to do to you. They didn't know what anything does. And just like, prescription drugs, what they do to you, I mean, you see those TV ads, you have a drug for, for whatever, and then it says, side effects, fatal can be a death. You can die.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly. I know totally, man.
It's ridiculous. So why would you take this if there's a chance of a side effect of you dying? It's crazy. But anyway, so I never had that problem. But I knew that when I heard the voice, I know Steve, and I knew that he had that problem, and I remember him saying that, telling me about it, and talking in general. And I remember reading it somewhere and recently in a magazine that we had.
Yeah, I'd like to talk to you guys about the adversity because, you know, especially once you reach a certain level of stardom, I wonder how it adds up sometimes when you know that you played a shitty show or you weren't at your best and people are coming up to you and telling you how awesome you are and you know you weren't that good. And, you know,
Well, yeah, I think that's just a matter of, you know, you get to a point in your playing where you have a certain consistency that no matter how bad you think you are, you're still probably, in people's eyes, a lot better than you were that night. You know? And
yeah, no, I did.
I think that's what happens. You know?
Did you I was just while you were driving through the tunnel, I was playing this version of Morning Dew from Beck, Bogart, and
Right.
Appice, and
Right.
I see
on the video.
that's right, the music,
Yeah. Well, I tell you, that video blows my mind. Because
oh my God,
I'm playing my ass off and I'm singing my ass off.
that's what I'm saying.
And it's in tune.
It's in tune. No, can you? So I mean, because this is fascinating because I've been talking to, Keltner and Tom Bones Malone and those cats, and they were talking about, Levon Helm and his ability to sing while he was playing. But you were playing your ass off and
I was
singing.
playing a lot more than Levon Helm.
A lot more than Levon Helm.
Yeah.
Did you?
I mean, on that song especially, when I saw that song first, I said, "Oh my God, am I singing my butt off?" I mean, I can't believe how much, how I'm singing like that, and playing, So.
Well, no, I was going to say that the tempo was super fast too. I mean, it was
super fast.
Super fast, and your playing was super fast. I always like to talk to drummers, musicians about this idea too of when I see younger cats play today, whether it's whatever setting it's in, they're very obsessed and focused on where the one is. They need to know where the one is. Where's the one? Where's the one? And I remember talking to Bernie Ledden's brother, Tom, and James Jamerson. Was in a band with Jamerson, and Jamerson was getting so frustrated because there was a session they had at one point, and someone kept asking, I don't know where the one is. Where's the one? And Jamerson looked at him and he goes, any note can be the one. Okay? And I wanted to ask Carmine Appice because it's very liberating for a lot of cats when they finally realize, when they get to a point with a drummer especially, when any note can be the one. And I just want you to talk about that concept, your concept of that, because if people get too hung up on that, then you're not going to be listening or feeling the music.
Well, I mean, you gotta look. I mean, one is the beginning of a phrase, or he's right. Any note can be one, but it depends on what timing you're in. First of all, so if you're in 4/4, you want to know where the one is, so you keep the groove going. I mean, I did a song on my Guitar Zeus record called Stash, and the solo went to 2 bars of 7 and 8, and then 2 bars of 8 or 4.
Right.
But when I played it, if you look that up on the internet, it's called Stash, Carmine Appice, Guitar Zeus. The middle section, I try never to hit the one, so you don't really know where one is in the whole solo.
Yeah,
that was the idea of it.
I love it.
And that was the idea of it because when we did the demos for this particular song, we did it on a 4-track, and I played a really small drum set, like those ones you buy for kids, because my son was a kid then, and I bought him and my daughter had a little drum set for the house, and I used that as my demo. So we put the song on a 4-track with those drums, and I didn't know where the one was, as I didn't figure out what the timing was yet of the actual riff, and but when I listened back to it, I said, wow, that's really cool.
It is.
I have to duplicate that somehow. So I did by never playing the one for more than 2 beats at a time, and then going on, hit the one, then second beat, okay, and then I'm off again to somewhere else where you don't know where the one is. you know. And we really came out great. I got to say, I really enjoyed it.
And that was, and say the name of the song one more time.
It's called Stash, Tash, Stash, and the album is called Carmine Appice Guitar Zeus. It's got this is the album I did in '95 and '96, and I've re-released them in different forms. Where I did an album, a solo album, and then I brought in all these great guitar players to play in it on different tracks. I had everyone from Brian May to Ted Nugent to Slash, Yngwie Malmsteen, Steve Morse, Leslie West, Neil Sean, Richie Sambora. You know, they're all on just playing solos on the album. But the rest of the album was me and Tony Franklin on bass, and my friend Kelly Keeling. Me and Kelly wrote most of the songs, and Tony wrote a few songs with us. But it's a really, really progressive album. It's probably one of the best progressive albums I've done. You know?
I'm gonna have to check that out. That is fantastic. I was gonna. What was the kind of conceptual? Because you were in with Beck and Bogert. How did you guys, when you would once you played the head of the tune and then you'd go off and improvise? Was it the idea that everybody realized that once you took off, any note could be the one? I mean, could you talk about how you?
Yeah, I mean, we would just play, you know, and as you're playing, people, you know, you should know where your one is, you know.